from the creative side of the universe. There's something very mystical and mysterious and real and powerful, and I'm not suggesting that anybody should, create, voodoo dolls of George Bush or Dick Cheney and start throwing them on fires or anything. But
don't give them no
however,
ideas.
if you feel so inclined, let me know the exact time you're going to be doing it.
Oh Lord, don't be giving the crazies ideas now.
I'm just joking, people.
You know how they are. They'll be writing you, sending you voodoo dolls.
There is something very powerful about connecting your minds together by looking in the same direction, having the same aim, and that's one of the reasons why I think that the world is the way it is. Why they have created so much division among human beings. You've got racial strife and tension. You've got men against women. You've got ethnic tension. You've got this country against that country. The New Agers against the Catholics, against the Protestants, against the Scientologists, against the Mormons. All of these different groups and everything are incepted and created, I think, by pathological people and designed to just put people at each other's throats. And human beings really need to get together right now because we have a problem on this planet and we really need to solve it.
Well, it's one of the few times that in our society that we have the ability. I mean, we have the internet now, so we can all link up.
We could do it.
Yeah, there's no excuse not to get together anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's ideas, thoughts, and designs can be put forward and expressed. And geez, just look at the blogs all over the internet now. Everybody's got a voice. So I mean, we need to come to some kind of coherent understanding.
We need to come together, and the thing is when we come together, let's agree on some standards for what we're going to consider to be evidence of this or that, and also let's exclude the pathological people from our communion because they're the ones that come in and start whispering and spreading rumors and lies and creating discord and taking down the tone of any kind of higher aspiration. We need to exclude them and get together with real human beings who have real empathy, real compassion for one another, and agree that there are many different ways to the top of the same mountain. You can go up many different paths, but we're all going to the same the same mountaintop. We need to get together.
It's true, but it's what happens. I think is mainly it's ego that gets in the way.
Pathology.
It's I'll give you an example. About 7 years ago, a friend of mine came to me and said, Joe, why can't we get the ufologists to agree to a set of guidelines for abduction research?
Yeah.
I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, I'm fairly well connected, and I know quite a few of them. I said, I'll come. Oh, God. This turned in, and still, we're 7 years later and still haven't done this. And this turned into a nightmare like you wouldn't believe because, when we contacted like Jacobs and Hopkins, they went off in two totally different tangents with it, which I was surprised because usually they're kind of close together. Oh no, Whitley went off on his, and by the time it was all said and done, we ended up having like 21 different, but no one was even getting close. And so I even
nobody was agreeing.
Nobody would agree. So I said, I'll tell y'all what, I'll even make it easier on y'all. I'll give y'all some guidelines. Oh no, they didn't even want to do that. And what it came down to was ego. There was 5 or 6 egos that just would not bend to the other one. They were the only possible plausible explanation. And I'm like, no, guys. It's like David. David's done some good basic research in alien abductions. He has not gone to the next level. He's still where he was 15, 18 years ago, which is fine. I understand that. But he hasn't moved to the next level, which a lot of the other researchers have, based on his research, by the way.
Yeah.
But, he's not willing to take that next step. Buzz Hopkins' health isn't as good as it used to be, and I think he's been kind of, even getting out of this. And Whitley has a totally different view on this. And so you're not getting any real coherence. The only place I've seen in anything where we agree is what I was talking about earlier was myself, Darrell Sims, Jovan Smith, Mary Rodwell, Katarina Wilson, Leah Haley, Miriam Delicato, Miss Isley, Jim Sparks, and a few of the others that are doing this kind of basic research. We do agree on about 80% of the abduction stuff, but still, even with that, we can't come up with a coherent guideline because there are just fundamental things we will not agree on. And I hate to say it, but it's more about ego than it is anything else. who's right and who's wrong, instead of just taking it and saying, okay, we need this, we need this, we need this. People's egos getting hurt. And then I found that there's a lot of control issues. Certain people want to be in control.
Well, all of the things you're talking about, egos that continue to the point where damage is being done to other people or to the system itself, that's pathological. When
it is.
When you're talking about people who, they can't let go of their emotional attachment to things, that's pathology. It's a kind of sickness, And people, all kinds of people with those pathologies are involved in any kind of study or research because, people with pathology naturally gravitate to positions of power.
Well, I tell people all the time, I have a big ego. You can't be in this field and not have an ego. It's impossible because you'll get squashed.
There's a healthy ego, though.
But I tell them I will never let my ego get in the way of my research or my own personal life.
Exactly.
I'll be like, well, nope,
You can't survive without an ego, and we're not talking about that kind of. We're talking about an entrenched inability to see another person's point of view, to see a basic central point of view where everyone can agree on something.
And that's half of ufology. I hate to say it, but it's half of ufology.
That's why I don't have anything to do with it.
But and I've said this before, there is a new breed of ufologists in the works. It's people like myself, Richard Dolan, Karen Dolan, a few of the others that we're doing research with. They're the new breed of ufologists. They're not the old breed where, and I'm not going to mention any names because I have to work with them, but a lot of them are set in their ways. Their answers are the only right answers, and they won't change their views on anything.
And meanwhile, the world burns.
Yeah, and some of them have been preaching the same thing for 20 or 30 years. And I understand that, but when you've got groups like ours and other people with more data and more research and more understanding, you should incorporate that into your research. But no, because then it changes what they know is right or what they believe is right. It changes it, and of course that creates problems for them.
Well, the problem is that they're not working with a genuine theory of knowledge. A genuine theory of knowledge would postulate that even the point of view of the person doing the research or your theory itself must submit itself to examination and analysis.
It does. It has to. I tell people all the time, that's why, I do a lot of public speaking and I do a lot of the radio stuff. One reason I formed the radio network is so that our organization and our fellow friends in ufology had a venue to speak. Because we want to know what other people think. And, every now and then I'll find out I'll do a lecture like on the Greys or the reptilians or the humans or something like that. Matter of fact, there's a 10-hour series I've just done on audio on these 3 alien races and military abductions.
Wow.
And so
I'd
people,
like to hear that.
Yeah, it's good and it's a lot of fun. And people go listen to it and they're like, they'll either write to me, oh, you got to write out our money, or they'll criticize, which I actually handle criticism real well. I don't get mad when people criticize. If it's something I firmly believe, no, I'm not going to change my mind. But if you can present an argument and data, I will, and
exactly.
I have in the past.
I'm not a specific argument. Give me some data.
I tell them I tell them don't call and say, well, Joe, you're wrong, or Joe, you're a moron, or Joe, you're this, you're that. No, well, then I'm just going to ignore you. But if you write to me or you call me on the phone, because I'm probably easily accessible, and you say, Joe, I listen to you say this, but I've seen this, this, and this, and for this reason and that reason, I may change my mind, and I have. I used to, when I first got involved with this, the aliens were all one way, and now I know that, no, they have different ideas, different thoughts, different signs, different layers, and different groups. Like, people talk about the Greys, the reptilians, and the humans all working and coexisting with each other. Well, the little three-foot Greys mess with everybody, but people don't realize that there's 7-foot Greys, and there's whites and browns that are also in the same family, and they're much more advanced than either the humans or the reptilians. They're more like the peacekeepers. And the Greys actually work for them. The little Greys actually work for them, but they also have dealings in working with both the reptilians and the humans as well. And I think that's why people get confused sometimes, but most people are not aware that the Greys have 4 or 5 different sizes and 3 or 4 different colors and about 11 different varieties. And, and the average researcher is just not going to know that because they really either haven't experienced it themselves or have not seen the data to back it up. Mm-hmm. So that changes a lot of stuff for a lot of the researchers when they find this out, or they interview a lot of the contactees that we have. So it changes a lot. And it puts different spins on different things, so it gets confusing. And, because I was always under the impression, first off, that the very short Greys originally I thought they were from the future coming back. Then I realized, no, that's not what it was. Then a lot of them said they were automatons or androids or what have you. Well, we did find that there is one version of them that seems to be part alien, part robot. And then there's another 3-foot gray that's just a gray. And so you have both of those, and they seem to have ties with all what's going on in this planet. And then you have the tall ones that are either related to them or they deal with. And this is all information that, it's hard to get. There's not a lot of people talking about it.
Well, then you're going to enjoy reading this book because, this Cassiopeian transmission talked about all these different varieties and types and so forth, long before there was any information available such as you're describing.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing, and I'm sure that you're going to catch criticized because you're talking about more than one alien. Because some of these contactees get really mad when you talk about more than the little 3-foot gray. I'm thinking, well, baby, you're in the wrong realm. That's just one little alien.